What if I told you that amidst the chaos of skirmishes, native Indians defied the boundaries of tribal rivalry? We unveil the captivating tales of how these noble souls cared for captured women. During the raids, Indians killed children at once. They could raise the children as full members of their tribe if they were captured as prisoners of war. For the men, their situations varied from being killed immediately after a battle to becoming prisoners. Alvar Nunes Cabeza de Vaca, his 3 companions, and the other Indians who were captured by the Spanish in Texas are considered to be amongst the earliest Indian captives. Men with medical knowledge were able to gain authority quickly and live relatively well in captivity. They had freedom of movement, the respect of their captors, and even some honor. Women's fates were both pitiful and dignified. Many people are surprised that captive women were treated with respect. Indians have a special respect for young girls, who at the time of capture were not mature enough to become full members of the tribe. There are many cases where captive girls rose through the ranks of the tribe. Cynthia and Parker were captured as children but became full-fledged members of their tribe when they married Comanche chief Petanacana. Cynthia and Parker are the mothers of Juana Parker, the last military tribal chief. When Cynthia was found in 1860, she returned to her family and tried to escape to her tribe several times, just like Millie. Durgan, the kidnapped child who grew in captivity, married a Kiowa warrior and lived happily until old age. However, women as young as adolescents were also taken captive. These captives hated their captors and would do anything to escape, even at their own risk, to avenge them. Matilda Lockhart was a 13-year-old girl who had been taken prisoner. She longed to avenge the Comanches for their cruel treatment and humiliation of her. In 1840, while meeting with Indians in the San Antonio Council House, she provoked a violent fight and claimed that the Comanches held more than a dozen prisoners in captivity. Native Indians, however, did not tolerate violence towards captive women and girls because their moral code did not allow such acts against the weaker gender. The Indians would demand a ransom if the captive refused to marry a warrior or chief or stay with the tribe. Women became a lucrative business for them. Leaders would capture women to sell them to family members. Special agents even searched for captives and ransomed the Indians to release them. They then sold them back to their grieving families. The Indians were also never forced to join a tribe. The captive could join a tribe if she wanted, wait until the ransom was paid. The chief's family would often adopt young girls. Indians considered women to be strong and beautiful but exhausted. The practice of adopting a child by the chief's clan was transformed later into a ceremony rewarding the most successful tribesmen who would marry the daughter of their leader. Cynthia's example shows that many captives chose to stay in the tribe and tried to marry their beautiful daughters. Even after their release, they return. As strange as it sounds, women found life in an apparently primitive society to be more comfortable and suitable than in the civilized societies of that time. Cynthia, who had failed to return to the tribe of her birth, wanted her remains to be buried in the reservation. The fate of 2 sisters who were captured during the so-called Oatman massacre illustrates the journey taken by the captive Indian tribe. The Oatmans were a family who was trying to travel to California. Warriors from the Yavapai tribe attacked parents and children about 90 miles away from Yuma. White Americans first approached the family, asking for food or tobacco. Then they began slaughtering them. The 2 sisters, Olive and Marianne, and their elder brother, Lorenz, were left to die. The young men were fortunate. The girl survived and later was able to speak about what happened. Lorenz was able to contact the nearby Mormons who buried the bodies, but the girls vanished. They later told without a trace that they were treated as slaves once they joined the tribe. They were made to collect branches for fire and food. The native Indian children humiliated them and teased them constantly. Adults also acted in an inappropriate manner, sometimes physically. The older Olive became so convinced that she and her sister were going to be killed that they punished the girls in such a way that it was hard for her to believe that this would ever happen. They had lived in this condition for a little over a year before the Mojave Indians arrived. These visits were for the exchange, purchase, and sale of goods and foods needed by tribes. Mojave ransomed the captives immediately after they were noticed. Olive and Mary were soon in another tribe where the treatment of them completely changed. The chief adopted both sisters, and Aspeno, the wife of the chief, and Topeka, his daughter, took good care of the girls. Olive described later how the Mojave treated them better than their daughters. The girls were not forced to work, and as a mark of their acceptance as members, Olive was tattooed onto her face. She emphasized the dispensation. Spano raised the girls as their own daughters. While settlers were often with the Mojave tribe, the girls did not ask for their help. One of the visitors only noticed the white girl when Olive's sister was starving to death. A messenger from the fourth human arrived soon after and demanded that the girl return immediately. The tribesmen tried to conceal the fact that Olive had been staying with them. However, the military assured them they would destroy the village if the secret was revealed. Olive decided to leave without her sister and return to civilization. Later, the young woman, who was only 19 years old at the time, recalled the negotiations about her fate. He said that they claimed I was not American, but that I belonged to an Indian-looking race who lived far from the setting sun. They painted my hands, feet, and face in a way that no one else had ever seen. They told me to not speak to Francisco using English, but to use another language instead. This was to let him know that I wasn't American. He was forced to tell me the truth. I told him everything, even in broken English. He sprang up from his chair in anger and declared that he wouldn't tolerate it. The tribe was ready to kill Olive for supposedly betraying them, but Olive's tribal leader and wife prevented this. The girl soon returned to her tribe where she saw her brother. Olive's best friend told her that she missed her Indian husband for the rest of her life. She also spoke of the attitude of the people towards her. It must be said that I was treated with respect. Finally, after Olive returned to normality, got married, and seemed to put the past to rest, neighbors noted that Olive never smiled again. Olive's inability to smile may have been due to her desire for the past. Bonus rare fact: young children were generally killed on the spot, however. Children between the ages of about 8-12, who were old enough to not need babying but young enough to become a member of the tribe, were often assimilated. The most famous of which was Cynthia Ann Parker, the wife of Nocona and mother of the great Comanche war chief Quanah. Her parents and siblings were killed by the Comanche at the 1836 destruction of the private settlement Fort Parker, but Cynthia Ann was taken and allowed to live and became in all ways a Comanche. When finally returned to her family in 1860, she could not adapt and died of sorrow 10 years later. We thank you for watching. Please do not hesitate to subscribe and check out this video right here.